All right. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's been a long
Good.
time.
It has been a long time. Kind of. I feel like we see each other sometimes.
Yeah, like a year
Yeah.
ago, about then.
Yeah, we had Sweet Green.
We did.
um Alejandro, tell the world who you are. And yeah, let's hear your story and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. Well, I'm Alejandro Gonzalez. I'm a third year student at NYU studying history and public policy. I'm a former student of Chidi's,
Hmm.
Lucas, and currently somewhat working with him, always thinking about what he's doing, um, and kind of I don't want to say modeling my life after his, but I think what my high school experience being in his classroom, being in your classroom, it's been pretty instructional into what I want to do. I think later in life.
Wow. That's that's high praise. Thank you. That I didn't think you were going to say that. That's cool. We're going to get into that. I think um, it's important to underline that Alejandro was a former student of mine, and so it's cool to check in with my former students. And I don't know. I feel like now that the student thing is over, I'm very curious in Alejandro's life and checking in with him. Off mic on our pre-production, he said his favorite podcast is.
I like the first one, the one with Chidi's wife. I thought that one was really cool.
Mhm.
It kind of gave me, I guess, like back to the former student, gave me a little bit of insight into your personal life, which is something that like in a teacher student relationship, I like you don't really get. Like, why
Yeah.
would you get that? But
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool, little insight into what's going on with Osluka Company, what
Mm.
thought process behind that, and it was just cool to see like I don't know the evolution of your relationship.
Mm. Well, she would like to hear that. So shout out to Ofane. She's gonna like to hear that. So cool. Um, so we know, you were a student of mine, and then you went off to college. And I'm curious about the transition from high school to college. Did you feel prepared? Did you feel that you were ready to enter that space appropriately?
Yeah, I thought I was prepared. I think something that my high school always kind of taught me was, or always kind of instilled in me, is like you're gonna come out of here ready to write, and like a lot of like college professors always say that like our students are the ones that write the best, and honestly, that was true. Like I was fine, but what I wasn't really ready for, to be honest, was kind of being homesick and
Mm-hmm.
time management. Um, so I went from like I was an athlete in high school, and then I also was an athlete. I'm still an athlete in college. I run cross country and track,
Mm-hmm.
and I just wasn't ready for that switch. I don't think. And then like on top of that, you pile like social events, like going out with to parties, and I'm in New York all the time, so like that was a big buzz in my head, literally all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're also homesick, or I was homesick, and like just with the schedule of being like an athlete always in season throughout the all three seasons, it was hard to go home, and it was weird. Like even being so close to Philadelphia, it was weird to miss home so much. But
Yeah.
yeah, that I think that's something that I wasn't really prepared for. Maybe even time management. Um, those two things were something that really kind of took me by surprise.
When did you first start to feel homesick? Was it an immediate thing or something that gradually started to happen?
Um, Probably gradual, but pretty early on, to be honest.
Mm.
Um, Probably like I want to say like a month and a half, 2 months into school. It's just kind of a little sensory overload being in New York all the time. And to be honest, if I didn't have like the team, the group of people that I went into school knowing at some superficial level, I honestly have no idea how you would make friends there. Like,
Really?
yeah, everyone's just like 18, 19, going into school.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're in New York, so you feel really independent. So you're not gonna. There's no campus really at all, so it's not like you're gonna run into people all the time. Which is funny because you end up like people schedule throughout the semester align, and you always take the same like route to class, so you always kind of do bump into people, but it never goes past like bumping into someone on Second Avenue
Right.
or on the way back to your dorm. So um, yeah, I think having that group of guys there from the start was a lifesaver, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. What are you learning in college? What do you want to? What's your major? Your third year, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm a third year, history and public policy, so double major.
Wow.
Um, what do I want to do? I have no idea. I'm currently testing the waters in the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
I do strategic communications and research for-profit companies and non-for-profit companies and political groups and PACs and individuals, whether
Mm.
they be political or not. So it's interesting. I'm learning a lot. It ranges from like crisis communications and response and like reputation management to red flag vetting for certain companies and certain groups to legislative tracking and messaging
Mm-hmm.
on Capitol Hill. So I'm testing my wits there right now because I'm interested in politics, and that's kind of like where I want to be. I think I've established that. It's just I don't know in what capacity I want and how involved I want to be in politics.
Mm. How did you get into politics? What was the opening point for that?
So I got involved. I've always kind of been interested in it. I always found it intriguing, even in high school. In high school and middle school, like my favorite classes and the classes that I was best at. So it's probably why a lot of it they were my favorite. Were like history and English. So kind of understanding why people do things, reading about people's stories. So, like in English, for example, like just like following a narrative in history, following a narrative, and it all kind of just comes together into like in my head why people do things, and that's kind of what politics is at the end of the day, is why people vote a certain way or why a politician says this thing instead of that thing, why they vote for this bill instead of that bill, why they go campaign there instead of there. And so that really intrigues me. And so my freshman year, I took international relations or international politics. I don't remember what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was going to be really cool. Like you'd read a bunch of theory, and wow, I was so wrong. I got there and the guy was like, all right, calculus. And I was like, oh no.
What
So
what does calculus got to do with anything?
all game theory, statistics.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because I thought I was going to be a psychology major and I was all about that. I was going to be a therapist, kind of lay on my couch. I'll tell you all about your childhood drama. And then I thought all was going to be about techniques. And then they were like, you have to do statistics. And I was like, no, like, I don't understand how any of that got to do with me telling you about, your family trauma. But I immediately backed out of that one. I don't think a lot of people know that. I really thought I was going to get into psychology.
Yeah, so I got into that class and it was just math, and I mean I ended up taking it the whole semester, and it was like it was pretty instruction. It was cool, but like I realized that there was a different side of politics that I had no idea
Yeah. Yeah.
was existed. But like to get more involved in like what I became involved in my like professional life is I would take the same route to school to like where my classes were and back to my dorm, and I would pass a little office building, and at some point in my I think like November of my freshman year I realized that there was a congressional campaign office there
Hmm.
in this little office building, in this little office space, and it always was like doors were always open, music was always pumping in there, and
Hmm.
like the people in there were young. And so one day I was like, all right, I have nothing to lose. I don't really know who this person is. but I looked them up and I found their chief of staff's email
Okay.
online, and I just like sent an email. I was like, "To whom this may concern, I'm interested in this campaign, and like I'll volunteer, I'll intern, I'll do whatever you guys need. Like if not, then that's fine too. But I'm here. Like I live around the corner." And they were like, "Yeah, come in for an interview tonight."
What?
Yeah, tonight. And so I got ready, went, and then turns out they were having a party, like a volunteer party and kind of a get to know the candidate event in the headquarters that night. So not only was I interviewed, I was kind of also interviewed by the candidate, um, which was really intimidating because I had no idea what to expect. Um, and then they ended up giving me a position as an intern, and at which like I did odd jobs around the office. I would canvas, I would hang up posters, I would phone bank, I'd knock on doors. And then eventually I was kind of like they asked me what I really like to do, and I said writing and research, reading. And
Mm,
so they let me kind of grow into a more appropriate role for what I like to do as an intern. So I would help research policy papers, research op-eds,
mhm.
um, and then from there, like April came around, May came around, and I wanted to stay in New York that summer, but I really hadn't um, like I hadn't gotten another job or another internship. So I asked, I was like, "Is there any way I could stay on this summer, but money is tight? Is there a way like you guys could give me a stipend, like at least for transportation?" Because at that point,
Yeah.
I left the dorm that I was living in and moved to Bed-Stuy, which is like a 30-minute commute. And I mean, like,
Mhm.
yeah, subway fare is 275, but it adds up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were like, "We can do you one better. Like you can be a full-time staffer and have a salary." So I got a job doing essentially field organizing with someone who's like still one of my best friends today,
Mhm.
who's like 25 and in law school. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, that was kind of my introduction into politics. And I think the coolest part about it all is not really like my role on it, is meeting all the people I met on it, on
Mhm.
the campaign. So
Right.
the candidate himself was really involved in like my development there. Um, I still talk to him. He lives around the corner from me. Um, and the people there were like high caliber people.
Right.
One woman was Obama's, I think it's like rapid communications response director or something,
Mhm.
and she
Mhm.
just kind of pioneered Pete Buttigieg's campaign.
Yeah.
So I got to meet a lot of cool people, which is I think
Wow.
the best part.
I have so many questions that I'm sure the public want to know. When you went to the surprise interview, what did you wear?
I wore some skinny black pants, some desert boots, brown desert boots. I think a
You
white
know,
shirt and a navy blue. Uh,
wow, you know the exact outfit, Alejandro?
yeah, I mean it was a hit, so I had to wear it again after that.
Okay, all right. That's the first question people want to know. What do you wear to surprise interview in a political thing? Suit, you go casual. When you were knocking on doors, were there some crazy people?
Yeah, honestly, to knock on doors, you have to be a little crazy,
Hmm.
especially in New York, because like there's not doors, there's apartment buildings, so you're
Correct.
buzzing until someone lets you into the building,
Okay.
and then you knock on the
What was the
doors.
craziest story? What like did you interface with someone colorful?
Yeah, some people just don't want to see you and just tell
Yeah.
you to go.
Yeah. I hate those text messages where it's like, "Hi, my name is Steve and I'm from the Bernie campaign. Do you care about small children?" I was like
Yeah, and they're super intrusive all the time. So I and like
Mhm.
I like door knocking a lot more than I like phone banking. Phone banking
That
is
sounds horrible.
it's extremely intrusive. I felt extremely uncomfortable doing it.
Yeah. You
I
got
can,
hung up on a lot, I'm sure.
yeah, and people just don't like to be called at 5:30 when
Yeah.
they're having dinner with their family.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Did you
I just hated that.
did you find that there were some people who really wanted to engage with you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially in person. So a lot of what we would do is, so the congressional district is the east side of Manhattan, Williamsburg, Greenpoint, and Long Island City.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's a pretty big congressional district, and you have a lot of different types of people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the main things that we did was engage like young people in like the Lower East Side and the East Village, and we'd go to Tompkins Square Park, and we'd go to like Bryant Park and like in
Mm-hmm.
Midtown, and people would stop and talk to us, and we'd always have like the candidate was always like walking around,
Mm-hmm.
also like talking to people, and people were always really interested in it because our main message was like win or lose, all we want is for people to come out and vote. And the crazy thing that we found out was people didn't even know when the election was.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
people were like, what is this election for, like who are you?
Yeah.
And we would like say what we were doing when the election was, and they'd say like, who is the representative right now? And like that just kind of shows, and that to me was important because I thought like, yeah, obviously we wanted to win, and like
Right.
spoiler alert, we eventually lost in the primary, which was like a devastating experience,
I'm
which
sure.
we can get into later. but
Sure. I'm sure.
um but the I think the coolest thing was just wanting people to get out to vote. And I don't care who you vote for, but like, I don't know, if you're going to complain about the state of the world, the state of the union, I feel like you have, like, you just need to start voting. And I don't mean like in the presidential election, I mean like city council, like
Yeah.
school boards. Like,
Yeah.
if you think that your vote doesn't matter in the presidential, I'm not saying it doesn't, but like
Yeah.
it matters most in these local races that,
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
Was I your advisor in high school?
freshman year,
Do we? I forget how it works. I wasn't the year of. It was freshman and sophomore year, right?
freshman, sophomore. Yeah.
And then when you rotate to someone else.
Yeah.
Hmm. I don't like that system. But what I feel like I am your advisor now, and I would tell you, it sounds like you should go into politics.
Yeah. I think politics is where I'll stay. Sometimes I get a little disillusioned being
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I also sometimes, to be honest, I get bored. Like
Really.
it moves, it moves kind of slow, and it moves slow intentionally, I think, so things don't happen. So we don't make rash decisions essentially, and just like one day we decided this, and the next day we just regret it and then overturn it.
Yeah.
But I can't work in such a slow environment, and it's just so bureaucratic. And
Yeah.
um, which is why campaigns are interesting, because they're the opposite. They're fast paced. You
Mm-hmm.
buy into something that you really believe in, and
Mm-hmm.
you work really hard at it for
Mm-hmm.
9 months, 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
and then hopefully you win and you keep going to the general election. And then from there, you either start and find a new campaign, or maybe you get brought on to like the official office. I don't know.
Yeah.
So like along that is like an inner contention I have is, I don't know if politics is like the my space, because I think that like politics proper, meaning campaigns
Yeah. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
official office, because you just get burnt out and you get disillusioned.
Yeah.
Um, so I sometimes think about being a teacher. I think about I like I've applied to like everything you can imagine. I applied to like A&R internships at like Atlantic Records, marketing internships here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Which, to be honest, if I got, I probably wouldn't be that happy with.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think I'm at a point where I want to try a lot of things, and a lot of the skills that I've learned through my internships are marketable in other industries.
Yeah.
Um, Whether or not I'd be happy there is a different story. But
What What will make you happy? Can you?
well,
This is this is. Take your time on this one. Um, while you're thinking of the answer to that, um, I may have told you this story when you were in high school, but I was going to be a banker. I think everyone seems to know that now. And then the interviewer asked me the last question. She asked me all these banking questions, what's the stock price, who runs our advertising in Delaware, what's residual retail finance charge. She'd ask me all these banking questions. I knew them because I knew them like intellectually, right? And then the very last question was, well, what will make you happy? Working here at the bank or designing a course that could change the world? It was a really random question. And I was just like, what? Like, and at the time, I didn't want to be a teacher. Like, and so I was like, but I told her working at the bank, but I knew when I said that I was lying. Like, I knew I was lying. And she said, do me a favor, go apply to be a teacher. And if you don't like it, this job is yours. But I have a funny feeling I will never see you again. And I was like, I'm going to see you again, woman. I'm like, I'm going to call you tomorrow. I want the job. You're tripping. And then it's true. I went to apply at a nonprofit organization, and that was education and prep, and shout out to them. And I never called that woman again. I don't even know her name. And it's occurred to me what made me happy was impacting other people's lives. Like I just that concept of that I could say something or impart something into someone else that can impart open or turn on a light bulb for them. That made me happy. Doing this makes me happy. Educating makes me happy. But I didn't know that until she asked me that. So I'm curious, as a 30-year college student, do you have an understanding of what will make you happy in life?
To be honest, I think so. And for starters, for my personal own happiness, I want to, like, for my own sanity,
Mm-hmm.
I it needs to be something dynamic and something that
Mm,
I think is fun. I can't be like sitting around at a desk all the time.
okay,
Um,
that's good. That's good to know.
yeah, and I think like more holistically and where I see myself being feeling most fulfilled is I don't think I would ever run for office. I think social anxiety would get in the way of that, just not being able to kind of face crowds like that. And it's
Mm,
a taxing schedule. But I think being the person who designs a campaign would be really cool. I think someone who would write things out that makes people, um, I guess this is like these are not this is something I haven't really told many people, but
oh,
it rolls in small circles. But I think being a speechwriter would
hmm,
be one of the coolest jobs I could ever have if
yeah,
that opportunity presents itself.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so
That was on my short list too in college. Yeah,
I think if I could be a speechwriter, that would be incredible. Presidential, I don't know. I've like read all the books you could read about
really.
about like autobiographies, memoirs of presidential speechwriters,
Hmm.
uh, like policy writers. On top of that, I even think the reason why I'd want to be a teacher and why I entertain that idea is that you just see all the good that can come out of it, and it's
Yes.
cliche and like yeah, like a teacher is meant to like impart wisdom or whatever, like teach this lesson, that lesson, and follow a curriculum. But at the end of the day, a teacher can have such a big impact on a student's life. Like you'll see videos on Twitter of students buying their teachers like the shoes that they want to have, and the teacher is starting to like cry because it's not that the teacher couldn't afford the shoes, but just the mere fact that the students and the teacher have such a relationship that they think about the teacher outside the classroom and they want to make the teacher happy is just like I don't know, the fact that there's a mutual respect there. There's while the relationship is different than a friendship, there is also a friendship
Yeah.
to an extent there, and I think that's extremely powerful. And I think that more than a college professor, to be honest, I think high school teachers, middle school teachers
Yeah.
probably have the most impact to shape, at least in my experience, a student's opinion on the world, or at least help them find their own opinion.
Mm-hmm.
which I think is extremely important and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that if you want to make some sort of change in the world, if you want to see legislation enacted, being a teacher is something that is kind of like the front lines to that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not saying that you indoctrinate your students to be feminists or to be
No.
like advocates for social equality, and they like walk around with pitchforks and knives demanding Medicare for all, but like
Yeah.
it's not necessarily about the it's just about being informed and not being ignorant and being
Yeah.
respectful, and like that's legislation enough for me, to be honest. um
Absolutely. That's well said. That's well said.
so
The thing about teaching is you are right. You have direct impact on so many people's lives. Um, I think the challenge of this job is that that impact isn't always immediate. You often, for some people, they get it immediately. I think you got it immediately, and I think a number of my students get it immediately. But there is a population that while they're sitting in your class, they're like, I don't understand why we're doing it this way. And then you'll get an email 2 years later being like, oh, that's why you were so hard on us about this. And so that's great 2 years from now, but in the moment, it's just like, why don't they get it?
yeah,
And that's tough. That's a really tough thing. I think a lot of jobs, like, you get that immediate feedback that what you're doing is good. Like, like I imagine a mechanic, for example, you did your job because the car started, you know, and like you turn the engine and, but sometimes I think I delivered a fire lesson, like a fire lesson, and you get this kind of blank, like, and then later they'll be like, you remember that lesson? It was fire. And it'll be like 2 years later, So um I like
I actually think so. In high school, I don't remember if I don't know if you remember, but Brian Stevenson came to talk
mm,
before he became Brian Stevenson, or
correct.
like on his rise to becoming
Yeah,
the Brian Stevenson.
correct.
And like I left that assembly just feeling
Yeah.
like it amped me up. Like I wanted to like essentially be him. But
Yeah.
then I also think that there were people in that moment that were probably like, yeah,
Absolutely.
just glazed over. But then now, 2 years down the road, just
Mhm.
the movie came out. It's called
Yep.
Just Mercy, like the
That's
book, right?
mercy.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're probably like, oh, that
That's
man
the guy.
gave the greatest assembly of all time in my school.
Absolutely.
And like that is such a missed opportunity, unfortunately. Is
I know.
like I
At,
go back to that day and I'm like, I heard Brian Stevenson talk.
at
Like
your
I
school
shook that man's
auditorium.
hand.
Yes, right. You heard it at your school auditorium for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
So
right. I'm sure some people left like, that was all right.
yeah.
You get a donut, like, and now that's the hard part. That is the hard part. I see you being a teacher. I can see it. We were on
Yeah.
we
Like
were, go ahead, sorry.
yeah, what I mean, and in the earlier episode you had with your
Mhm. But Ronald?
yeah, with Ronald, he said something that also interests me is like aside from like the lessons and like having this long term like goal
Mhm,
or whatever for imparting
mhm,
wisdom, like you could get an email in the middle of the night of a student needing help, and like
mhm.
I think that's something I'd be interested in, is like I don't know, we've all had our own experiences. As being older, you have probably some things that tell me about certain things in my life that I
Yeah,
could have done differently or could do differently going forward, and
right.
the same way I could tell my sister going forward, since I mean I'm 5 years older than her. Like
Mhm,
I can tell her not to do this or do this instead, or
mhm.
so I don't know. I think like that's an immediate impact of a teacher right there. Is like
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think that's important too. And like
No,
I guess the
absolutely.
emergency aspect of being a teacher.
Crazy. It's crazy. In my current position, I'm a dean now, which is equivalent of house head, but more students. the dean of the entire class, not just a subset of the class. But yeah, I mean, now, and I guess this is a good segue into the coronavirus, but yeah, I'm getting a whole bunch of really depressing emails about, family members being affected, passing away, just so many things that are depressing that I have to field and respond with empathy and to problem solve. And um, it's wild. It's wild right now. I'm curious. I feel like there's two avenues. I should stick to the teacher thing real quick because the coronavirus is what it is. I think people know it sucks. But um, what will it take for you to become a teacher? Like, what would someone need to tell you to be like, this is it? You should be. This is what you need to do. Forget everything else. You're a teacher.
It wouldn't take much, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
not at all. It would. I don't know. I just like at the moment I don't really want to pigeonhole myself in anything I do. But
That's great.
I always go back to it all like weekly.
Yeah.
I think about it. I guess like from a pure practical standpoint, it's job security.
Yeah.
From like just a personal standpoint, I think every day is different as a teacher, and that is something that for myself is like
Yeah. It's incredible.
extremely important, or
Mhm.
else I'd get bored, I'd get jaded, I would kind of lose interest in what I'm doing, which is why I think I've been like applying to so many different kind of jobs. Like I interviewed with Atlantic Records,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was just like, what would I do there? Like it would be really cool, and I could do some really cool things. But I've like in the long term, to be honest, that's not really what I would be happy doing. No offense to anyone who works at Atlantic Records, it's a
Yeah.
sick job, but
Shout out to them.
my personal um, calling, I guess you could say, is not really to sell music or manage an artist
Yeah.
as much as it is to maybe one day sell a message of
Ooh.
empowerment or like inspire. I don't know. Not it's all really corny to be honest,
No,
but
it's not. No, it's not. It's not corny.
yeah, I don't know. I think yeah, I'm open. Yeah, it wouldn't take much at all for me to be a teacher. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's
Well,
there.
that's good. Yeah, that's good. Are you worried about the money?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Like it would be it's like something you have to think about, but at the end of the day you always make it work. Like
Yeah.
my when my parents came here, and I guess from Colombia, like they lived off of like enough to like, qualify from for food stamps, and like they raised me. We had my sister, they were able to buy a car. Like something my parents always told me is like you should think about money. You want to be able to like obviously live well or
Hmm.
live fine, but like we made it work with not a lot, and there's people that make it work with less even then. So
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a limitation.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate enough to probably be in a position where regardless of what I do, I'll probably make enough to live fine.
Yeah.
So
And you could, also, and this is something that I think I told Ronald this, and it's important. One of these days, we're going to do a panel on money because it is possible to carve out a career where you are making good money, and I think there's a pathway that I'm not sure people are cognizant of. I'm being careful with my language here, but
I think we may have spoken about it.
yeah. We have. That's true, and I just feel like people need to know more about that. I'm just gonna end it there. Just you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I want to talk a little bit before we get into deep dives. We're almost there. Um, you were in a little class called NewCom, the New
Yep.
Community Project. Speaking of education having impact, you were in that course. You were the executive director of Newcom. We've eliminated that now.
Really?
Yeah, because at my current school, it's an elite New York City private school, and the worry is that it will foster what's the word, competition.
Yeah.
And it's true, because during your time there were a lot of
Yeah.
drama. There was drama. There was
Yeah.
drama every single year. And so anyway, you were the executive director. Let's speak to that. What was I know, it's funny. This is like a weird question to ask, because Newcom came from my brain, and then it's out in the world, and then you experienced it. So I'm curious what it looks like from your vantage point.
Well, I think looking back at it now, and like it's a big talking point on like my resume. People always tend to ask about it. They always tend to ask about the two things that I don't think they're gonna ask about. They ask about the new community project, and they ask about what I did at Mural Arts, Philadelphia Mural Arts, which is like a senior project, which is there in like volunteer. So they always ask about those two things.
Wait, your pen.
Looking back, looking back on looking back on it, it's a huge responsibility. And it was like I didn't take it for granted in the moment, but looking back on it, there's like whoever has a leadership position, obviously it's eliminated now, but whoever kind of takes charge of the class as a student, like that's a position they shouldn't take lightly in any way. And it probably forced me to grow up a little quicker in a smaller environment than if I didn't have it. I think being in that position probably made me like cognizant of other people like slacking more so than if I was not in that position, and it made me kind of frustrated when I would see apathy, or when I would see or it made me like happy when I would see people work hard. And I think that's kind of emblematic and true still today, is
Mm-hmm.
something like if I see someone at my internship not working hard, or if I see someone like one of my teammates not really working hard, I'm like, can
Yeah.
you like get out of here? Like if you don't care about it. Or I often see people on social media post this and that about like critiquing everything and everyone.
Yep.
Meanwhile, they live a different lifestyle. And I'm like, if you're really
Mm-hmm.
not going to live up to what you're saying, just
Yeah.
be silent about it.
Yeah. Who was our partner during that year?
Urbanstead.
Urbanstead. Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. And what would you say was the experience of doing that kind of service, where it was based in a class and reading books and doing like, I'm just curious what it feels like to be a student in that experience.
To be honest, it's probably the same. It's like real life. Like where I am now, it's pretty much that. It's that model, except instead of reading like books, nonfiction books or fiction books, excuse me, I'm reading reports, technical reports, and legislative research. And there's always some sort of narrative. There's always some sort of backdrop. And especially when it comes to like messaging campaigns, you need to fit a technical report into someone who exists, like an actual person's narrative, to make it authentic, to sell the message and to have it be heard, or else the governor of some state is not going to care. Like if he doesn't see or she doesn't see that this issue is pertinent to their constituent, why are they going to care?
Mm.
So it needs to be like tethered tightly to a person, and like that's extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have like a lot of messaging campaigns have op-eds. So you just like do op-eds, and you put a person's voice in and like demand urgency from leadership, and you demand urgency from or compassion from constituents. You demand, so everything, like every policy isn't really, it's not like the omnipotent government. It's meant for the regular person. And so there's a reason and there's a person why that, like there's a personal narrative as to why that policy was enacted.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like, oh, Senator so-and-so woke up today and decided like this economic principle is going to change America. No, that's not how it works, or how I've seen it work. It's like this immigration policy needs to come through because in New York there's these many immigrants, because the immigrant population in the Lower East Side is scared to go outside in the summer because they know that there's undercover ICE agents.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's why there's like those policies
Yeah.
get enacted, is because there's a whole team of people at congressional offices and local offices dedicated to fielding phone calls from constituents about good, bad, ugly, beautiful, and those calls get turned into policies. So after all those calls, there's a yeah, it's pretty incredible. So I think the New Community Project is exactly like real life, at least the way I've experienced it. So you take the narrative in one situation and apply it real world to
Hmm.
another, and you try to make a difference.
Yeah. 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 We're trying. I wish there was a way to bring in the people who took the course in the first 3 years in Philadelphia and show you how it's evolved now.
That'd be really
It's a
cool.
different, it's a different course. It's the same essential course, but I feel like I know more about it. So I don't know how to explain it to you. It just has a shape. It has there's a fluidity that it has that's exciting that I wish more people saw. Um, I don't know how to explain it. It's just something, I just know what it is now. I think you have an idea, and that's a really big thing, that once you have a big idea, it is an idea, but it lives in your head. And one of the and just shout out to Gabby Rusamanio. One of the big things she was trying to teach me was that how do you take that really big idea and turn it into a thing that anybody else could own? That is the challenge. And so I think in those first 3 years, maybe the last year in Philadelphia, where I started to find a way to give it a shape, but it is a step of taking something that lives only in your head, and the only way that people can access it is to come through you. And now I think it's at a point where anyone, now that I presented around the country talking about it, now someone else can go like, I could do that. Like I could take that whole thing and it's mine now. And that's the exciting thing about the project now. So I'm so excited for to see how other people, now that we've opened it, just my company has opened it up to other people now. I'm so curious to see how other people run with it. It's exciting. All right, it's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Are you excited for this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Deep dives. People who have not tuned into the podcast may not know this segment. It's called deep dives. It's when I ask our participants to look at themselves like a text, like like we do a newcom, like turning non-traditional text into literary text. So I'm asking you to do a deep dive into your own self and your own experiences, hopefully giving you a deeper, more robust understanding of yourself. So here we go. Some of these questions, I don't know how you're gonna answer these questions, but all right. Um, how will you know when you are successful?
Um, to be honest, I have no idea. Um, I think I have some dread about that, and I think I try not to really think about what lies ahead. Like I think I'll know when I'm successful when I get there. To be honest, like
Mm.
it's a non-answer to your question. Uh, like for example, in the speechwriter um,
Hmm.
example, like if I'm gonna say David Litt, but David Litt was he was a speechwriter for President Obama. If one day I get to become like David Litt, like, and
Mm,
I'll be successful. Or maybe even if I get to that point, maybe I won't think I'm successful. So I don't know. And if my teacher, maybe every day I teach is a successful
mm,
day and I'm a successful person. But I wouldn't be able to tell you, I don't think, until I got there, because I think as I've learned, a lot of my interests and goals have kind of shifted and changed as I've tried new things and been in new spaces.
mhm,
And I'm always learning, I guess, kind of like I read a ton. I spend a lot of my time outside of the class and reading. So, and I kind of find new passions there and learn new things and new avenues to explore, new people to kind of
mhm.
um, learn about and obsess over. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not really sure if
Mhm.
I know right now what will make me a successful person.
All right, we're gonna ratchet it up. We're gonna stay in success. What do you think success would feel like, though? Like, what do you when you think about successful Ale? What do you think it feels like?
To be honest, I think it'll feel like people coming to me for some sort of help. Um,
Mm,
whether it be like if back to the speech writing thing, like if they need me to craft an idea and put it into words, like I'll be there to help them. If they need me to be helpful for like a situation at home as a teacher, then I'll be helpful in that situation.
yeah.
Um,
Someone told me in grad school. I won't put her on blast because I don't think she probably hates me, but um, but she used to see she's she used to say, "I want to be used," and I'd be like, "What?" And she's like, not like in a horrible way, but like just the idea that someone sees value in me, like someone looks at me and goes, "Oh, I am someone that possesses a wealth of value. I need to find a way to get that," is a kind of person she wants to be. So when you said that, it made me think about you want to feel wanted. You want to feel like you have so much gifts and talents that people are like tripping over their computer to email you, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That, yeah, yeah. I agree. I would agree with that. Um, what happens in high school that teachers don't know about?
What happens in high school? Honestly, I don't think much happens in high school that teachers don't know about. I
Like,
think there's kids are pretty loud about what they do and what they don't do. So, like in the hallway, so I'm sure teachers hear a lot of things.
mm, another
Um,
non-answer.
I guess to give you an answer, like from what I'm learning, there's like kids are experimenting more and
Yeah, yeah,
doing more things. That, to be honest, like not that I was like a goody two shoes or anything, but I never really experimented with anything in high school. And like, I think that's something kids now are, I don't
yeah,
know if it's now or if it was then too, but it
yeah,
feels that people are doing more things that feel riskier. And
yeah,
like, not to say that experimenting is bad
yeah,
in all, but I think there's a time and place. And I don't think high school is a time and place for some of the things that,
yeah. It's like that show Euphoria, which I cannot watch. It's very triggering as a teacher. I cannot watch that show. You watch that show, Euphoria?
yeah, I really liked it. It was a really good show.
Nah, hard pass. Hard pass. Too triggering. I don't want to know what y'all do. I don't even know why I asked that question. Okay. Third one is schools need more of what? This could be
um,
college. It doesn't matter. The school.
I think schools need more teachers with passion.
Mm,
So I'm sure, like, I think, I don't know, this might be pessimistic, but the amount of teachers that are there to teach because they really love the students and they love teaching and they're really passionate about their subject area, I think is the minority.
mm,
Or maybe they all start out as that, as passionate, but then they get jaded. So I think, I don't know, there might be a better way to cultivate a teacher's passions than to just throw them in a classroom and tell them to teach and to meet certain goals by the end of the year. I don't know. I also think some like students need to be a little more just like patient. Um,
yes. yes.
So I think that's something that even I, like, as a student kind of grew into is like I think I've always been cognizant of what I've liked, but I didn't really see that school was a part of that process of developing myself into like the person I wanted to be and explore the passions that I liked.
Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
whenever like I was assigned like some history reading, for example, like reading about the Bolshevik Revolution, I was like, why would I like? I know what I like now. Why am I gonna have to go to
Yeah.
the past? And it all ties in together. And like, if I could tell myself one thing, it's like just wait, and I promise you, it all ties together at some point. Like,
Yeah. I just think that's part of developmental stuff. I think your brains are impatient and impulsive, and it's just funny that education comes right at that moment where your brain is starting. Like if I can do high school all over again, I'll be a G. Like if I could do college again, I could do college again. I would take. I mean, not that I did take it seriously. I was a very serious student, but I would be more. My brain would shut off from, oh, I got to figure out how to get A's to wait. This is interesting. I wonder how this connects to something else, or how can I use history, which was very hard for me actually because it felt like I had to regurgitate facts. But now I'm curious how that could help me become a better artist. So I wonder if I knew more about the Baroque period, if how that would help me. You know, I'm trying to go into film, and I'm doing a whole bunch of things. I wonder how that can make me a better person. I would do that now, but in college and high school, I was just trying to figure out like how can I get an A in this class. All right. When was the last time you experienced fear, and how did you overcome it?
recently, probably like day in day out, kind of like this is. I think I've been experiencing a lot of like anxiety recently
Mhm.
because of world events. You know,
Yeah.
coronavirus going around, and it's just like a lot of uncertainty. And I'm privileged that I'm not struggling right now. I'm not working. I'm
Mhm.
not out there risking my life. But at the same time, it's just like I get really anxious seeing a lot of people not care, and I get anxious seeing people suffer. I get anxious seeing people not understand the severity of it. I get anxious of like how messed up the American system is. And it's just like sometimes it gets a little overwhelming, and I get kind of bogged down by it, and just kind of worries me. It's like what comes after this? There's a lot of people after this that are going to be really screwed and are screwed now, but like in the long term, like there's something that needs to happen fast and needs to happen like drastically for people to be okay again. And that scares me a lot.
How do you deal with that? What how do you inject hope?
um I run, I guess. Like I think about things like on the runs. I kind of try to break them down logically. Um and then I guess like one of the things that scares me is it takes so much tragedy for humans to show so much empathy and emotion. Like one of the things that really makes me angry is like the pharmaceutical companies, they have the ability to lower the price of a drug, and it's shown time and time again that they can do it because they're lowering it and holding it right now at a low price, but they won't do it in normal circumstance. And that level of like apathy towards your fellow human just boggles my mind.
Mhm.
So I just kind of like think about it like rationally and like what would be the next steps to kind of solving that problem or any problem.
Mhm.
Um, I kind of like envision scenarios where if I were in charge of X or Y, like how I would go about creating a message or a campaign that would be like effective
Mhm.
to dismantle this or create that.
Mhm.
So I put myself in positions where I kind of like maybe build little superstructures of the world, of little problems, and then honestly, I think I find a lot of like solace in like knowing that things do get better. Like there
Good.
have been periods of the world where like I'm sure things like seemed bleaker or just as bleak than this, and like
Mhm.
things get better. So
They do. They do. I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by there's there's something about this moment that has unlocked a s- um, a certain amount of kindness and solidarity that I find encouraging. When I go to the supermarket, people being helpful, um, just the fact that people are emailing and checking in on people. It did. If there's anything to find hope in, is that there's something about this moment that there's something about pre-coronavirus that we are just plugged in into our social media and into our lives and our angles, that this moment it just kind of like like it's like it reset all of those things. And I think where my hope lies is that what will be born from that recalibrate, like that things being recalibrated. I wonder what will be, how will we engage with our communities, environment, our neighbor, that will be different than before. There's
yeah,
something about that.
humans are just so innovative, and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's unfortunate that it takes so much like loss and like such
Yeah.
a circumstance for it to come out. But
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know, like if you ever feel down, like the Google year in review videos, I don't know if you watch
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Or those like just kind of show that is like despite so much hardship and loss,
Hmm.
humans are like really extraordinary despite all the messed up things that we tend to do sometimes. Like
Yeah.
we're I don't know, we do have compassion and empathy for one another,
Hmm.
and it's there. It's always there.
Yeah. It's
So
there. I'm hoping we can just really, really double down on that empathy and love and care, and really use this moment as the springboard to um, radical love that will impact, shape the world. Um, at least I'm hopeful for it. Um, and I guess that was my four questions. I'm starting a new segment. I feel like I'm always asking you all questions and these like really hard questions, but I never get grilled. So this is your moment. I can take it, where you ask me a deep dive question, and I'll try my best to answer it.
all right, let's see. With this radical love idea, what's the first thing that you would, if you could change one thing in everybody, what would you change with this radical love idea?
It would be for people to reject the running narrative that we have of other people that often impacts how we treat other people. What I mean by that is, for some reason, not for some reason, it's because of the media, school, your family. There's a running track of the other, like, those people in the Midwest are just dumb because they live off the land and da 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 da. Or those elite New Yorkers, those liberals, they want to radicalize and legalize everything. That is a running narrative track in people's head that has no attachment to humanity. And I would hope that we um, make common us getting to know each other. Um, it can happen on a very local level, through the small community activism. This is something I wanted to do. Super corny, but I was super passionate about it, and I ended up moving from Philadelphia and I came here. But I think that communities in Philadelphia should unite to clean up their blocks. Like, in Philadelphia, there's a reduction. I don't know how it is now, but they're one of the biggest cities that has a very small sanitation services. Like, it's not, it is smaller than most major cities. And I think a really cool thing is I was going to develop, this is breaking news. I've told no one this, maybe my wife. Like, it was called Trashy Brunch. And the idea was getting a whole bunch of people together to clean up their neighborhood and then go brunch afterwards. I just feel like we need to take charge of our neighborhoods. We have to take charge of our neighborhoods. We have to get to know who our neighbors are. I think that schools should invest not only in international programs, but programs that are happening in this country. For some reason, we've gotten into this habit that service means going to Indonesia. Nothing wrong with Indonesia.
Oh, I have it. Oh my goodness.
We for some reason we get in this. Oh, I care about the world, but I'm going to go to Johannesburg, South Africa, and teach Black orphans how to tie a knot on their shoes. We've gotten into this this fantasy that is social justice, and there's importance in doing that. I'm not taking that away. People should go to Johannesburg and teach orphans how to tie their knots. Power to you. But we have poor people in America. We have poor people in Philadelphia. Lord knows we have poor people in Philadelphia. And we need to do a better job of having programs that goes to neighborhoods that we don't talk about. East Lansing, Michigan, Detroit, Michigan, Little Rock, Arkansas. Like, what are happening at the dinner table at these locations? And I think we need to do a better job of having young people really explore the country and get to know the people that in their chat rooms are automatically calling stupid on both sides of the aisle. Like, it's not just a Democrat, Republican, whatever thing. On both sides of the aisle, we need to get out of this running track narrative about other people, because it is divisive. And I think that we need to do a better job of that. So I'm hoping that in this coronavirus moment, it doesn't care who you are. Like, it doesn't care where you are, where you live. And I hope that could be a reminder that we got to reach out to people and really try to join in with other people. Not saying you have to agree or love what they are trying to do, but I think we need to do a better job of empathy in this country. And I'm hoping that this virus can be the impetus for that. That is the answer to my question.
I agree with that.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I got a little passionate there. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Like, oh, like you ask people like, oh, I love service. You're like, okay, so how do you do service? Well, I've been to Bali. I've been to Cape Town. I've been to Dar es Salaam. I've been to Italy. And it's like, no, you like to travel.
Yeah, I had the same like qualm, an unnamed group at my school.
Yeah.
They had a service project, and it was I don't remember what it was. It was helping or fundraising for some nonprofit that works like in a country in Africa. And I was like, all right, well, I understand that it's a noble cause, but at the same time, it's like, if you're a member of the NYU community, there's so much that you could do right a few blocks away. One of the largest, I think it actually might be the largest public housing project in the country, is 15 minutes north of here. And like, the school itself has done, to be honest, a lot of damage to the community it is in, just by virtue of having students there. And like, I'm not saying that having like, I don't know. I'm not saying that NYU is a bad institution. It does bad things, or it it creates a bad cycle outside of it,
Yeah.
which you can in turn help fix or like give back to. You
Yeah.
don't have to go across the globe
Right.
to give back. You can give back 3 blocks away in Alphabet City, or you can give back in Lower East Side or in the
Yeah.
Bronx.
The
Like
Bronx, right? I mean, there's just so many places. I just
it goes back to like I think about this a lot. Like people, this whole "Make America Great Again" thing is like, to be honest, hot take: America really has never been that great,
Mhm,
and
mhm,
like I could be hated, and I'm sorry if that offends anyone, but
mhm.
who listens to this. But at the same time, is like we aren't the first or the greatest in a lot of things compared to other countries. A lot of people here suffer from anxiety more than anywhere else. A lot of suicides, a lot of like things that can be prevented through other measures, and like the poverty rate is incredibly high.
Right.
Um, so it's like you don't really. It's all, and it ties into like this idea of like America being great or being great again, which
Mhm.
it arguably wasn't, and then like white saviorism, just
Yeah.
kind of like you need
Yeah.
to look elsewhere for you to find
Yeah.
the problems of the world when the problems of the world are here also.
Yes. What a what a depressing part to conclude our podcast. I think um, that we are a country of tremendous potential, and again, to be hopeful, I'm really hopeful that this moment that we are all in, not just the poor people we often neglect, but also the 1% is also afflicted by this. And so I'm just hopeful. I'm hoping this could be the spark.
Me too.
Um, Always mindful of the time. We're at 1 hour. Alejandro, where, I mean, you clearly are going places. Um, where can people find you? Are you like,
So my Instagram is private, but if they want to request me, they can. Ale Gonzalez 99.
yeah, man.
My Twitter is public, and it is Ale Gonzalez 1720.
Write that down. Al Gonzalez. 1720.
Yep.
Why 1720?
17 is the year I graduated from high school.
Oh,
20 is the number I wore when I played soccer. So,
oh,
big homage to, high school days. I don't really,
nice, nice. And are you like dishing political hot takes on your Twitter?
I do dish some political hot takes on my Twitter. I dish a lot of cultural hot takes on the Twitter.
Nice. Oh, that's right. We didn't even get into music. Like, what are you listening to right now?
Man, I listened to Travis Scott and Kid Cudi's new song. I was a little disappointed, gotta say.
They have a new song together.
Yeah, it's called
One
The
from
Scots.
what? Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a new group they formed, like
oh, Lord.
Thomas Cuddy and Travis. It was underwhelming. I've been
Is that
listening to a lot to.
is that an album?
No, it's a single.
Oh, what about the song from last week that Kid Cudi dropped?
I haven't listened to that yet.
Oh, I didn't. I haven't heard it. I heard the first 15 seconds, and I was like, eh. What about Chalice Gambino? Do you like that album?
I do like that album.
Yeah, it's good.
James Blake just dropped a new song. That was a good
Good.
song. I've been listening a lot to Bad Bunny. Um,
I'm getting into that. I'm getting into that.
Ever since Jay Z was brought back onto Spotify, I've been listening to a ton of Jay Z.
Jay Z. What you know about Jay Z?
What do I know about Jay Z? Man, I've been listening. I've been listening a lot to Jay Z.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, Brittany Howard. I don't know. I've been listening to a lot. Fleetwood Mac. I've watched High Fidelity on Hulu. Great
Was
show.
that good? Is that good?
It was a pretty good show, yeah, with Zoe Kravitz.
What's your go-to album that has been released in the past 2 years?
go-to album in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I gotta figure out what mine is. I don't even know what my answer would be. Like, what's the thing that I would play it, but copyright issues. Wait,
I guess like
Griselda,
my paper writing album is Channel Orange.
oh, I mean, come on, classic.
This is corny. I'm a big Tory Lanez guy though.
Really? I
Yeah.
can't get into Tory Lanes. I don't know. It's good though. Like I can look at it and be like, that's good, but it's just not something that I'm like running to. Do you like Griselda?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, I'm putting you on.
I'll look it up right
It's
now.
really like gritty New York though. So if you're not into that, you're not gonna like it. But it's very, very, very New York. All of them: West Side Gun, Conway, The Machine.
I know West
Beat the
Side
Butcher.
Gun. West Side Gun. I like
All
West
right,
Side Gun.
okay, that's their group. It's all three of them. So it's yeah, West Side Gun. It's Conway the Machine and Benny the Butcher. Yeah,
Oh,
that's dope. Yeah, like the new Lulu album from Conway. It's good. Division, I'm using her feelings. I gotta listen to that. That's gonna be really good, I think.
I've been into. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Snow Allegra. Snow Allegra.
East,
She's incredible.
she's incredible. Always been incredible. I'm happy she's getting her due right now. Looking at my albums right now. Not a lot of great albums that have come out. D Smoke. Do you listen to D Smoke?
No.
All right. D Smoke sounds like Kendrick Lamar, raps like Kendrick Lamar. Well, I don't know if he raps like him, but he sounds like Kendrick Lamar and as talented, I think, as Kendrick Lamar. That is a hot take, but Earl
Did you like
Sweat,
Igor?
huh?
Did you like Igor?
So Igor is an album again. I know it's good, but it hasn't hit my soul yet. But it is good though. Earl Sweatshirt has a new song right now, "Whole World," that I listened before I came on this podcast. It's very good. You know what I wanted to do with this podcast? Now we're over time. What I wanted to do, I'm gonna figure out a way to do this. Oh, James Blake, I see it. I see it. Oh, Alicia Keys has a new song. I see the
Oh,
Scots.
that's like a it's like a coronavirus response song.
Oh, Alicia. She's
It's
turned.
not as bad. It's not as bad as Drake making Tootsie Slide though. That's
He,
a song made for TikTok, man.
that's
That
weak.
is.
That's weak. It's so funny. Drake is both weak and
To be fair, he's never
brilliant.
missed.
He
He's
is
never missed.
brilliant. That's brilliant. He is a pure capitalist. Like that is like purely for money.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
But yeah, that's brilliant. But then I mean, that's brilliant. But also like seriously, you're Drake. You can do whatever you want. Like why do you need to pander to TikTok? Um, Anyway, what I want to do, I'm gonna figure out a way to do it, and they don't sue me. But what I want to do is like a whole segment where people like I want to create the best playlist in the world, and so everyone who comes on the podcast uh, contributes 3 songs to the podcast,
Oh,
and
that
then
would be
we'll like,
sick.
you know what I'm saying, and then people
That'd
can
be
follow it on Spotify, all the songs. And I want to play them. That's the problem. I can't play them because they'll come sue me. But I'm gonna figure out a way to like. I really want to create the Osluka podcast playlist. It'll be the greatest playlist of all time because it'll be curated by so many different people. Like next week's guest, and the week after that, and it'll be great.
I gotta say, Harry Styles' new album too. That is
Mm,
that's an incredible album.
all right, I'm gonna put that on my list right now. Harry Styles. Um, what else? Who else?
Justin Bieber's album was all right.
Yeah, Yummy.
Yeah. The
Um,
Weeknd's album.
Weekend album is good, but I like Party Next Door's album better. They're in the same genre to me, and so Party just made a better album to me. But I do like Weekend's album. Again, another good album that I can look at and go, that's a good album, but it's not hitting my soul. I'm looking at my collection. I don't know, man. Music has been a little bit weak. Um,
I'm looking at my recently played, but
you too.
none of them have really made.
I
I
don't.
know like John Mayer released a new song with Leon Bridges, but it was okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Johnny. Uh Yeah, I'm just waiting for Kendrick to come out, J. Cole to come back out. I'm curious with the Drake album. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for these three titans to come back and bless us during the coronavirus. Big Sean's I think album's gonna be really good because he's gone through some things, you know. Yeah, man. And Kanye's new album's gonna. I know people, Kanye, but the new album apparently.
I gotta say, I'm on that skeptical Kanye train.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna say it. I don't know. I don't agree with him, but he's a genius, guys. I'm sorry, the guy's a genius. So I'm sorry. He's a genius. He's a musical genius. You can never take that away from him.
All right, fair.
You can't take it away from him. He's a musical genius. And apparently his new album, he's rapping again. And so I'm curious. All right. We're over time. Anyway, Alejandro, we can do this for hours. But it's always a pleasure to check in on my former students and Alejandro especially. When he was in school, he used to come to my office, my classroom, and we used to just talk about music. Everything you're listening to right now used to be the wave back then. So I thank you for joining the podcast. He's a man on a mission, apparently, and I'd be curious to see now. This is documented. So when you become a speechwriter, this would be really cool to like play people like, oh, I was on this podcast and I was talking about it and here I am, and then you're going to inspire people,
maybe that's the goal. Maybe
one
day.
That's the goal. So thank you so much for joining us, and
thank you for having me.
I hope you all are listening. Stay safe. Stay safe, but also stay brave. So I hope you all join in next time, and have a good rest of the day.